welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Inside Track. We've got a fabulous guest this morning, Mark Bryce. How are you?
Very well, sir. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very, very well, thank you. So now, obviously, some of our listeners may know you, some of them won't. So probably the best place to start, and probably where we start with all of our guests, is just to get an insight as to who Mark Bryce is, where you've come from, and a bit of a career history and where you are now.
Yeah, of course. So first of all, Ryan, I spent 16 years in the corporate world managing IT teams. So that's where predominantly my career was based originally. So which fundamentally allowed me to get a really good insight and understanding of how busy professionals operate, in under stress and pressures of the corporate career. And it wasn't really until later on in life where obviously social media made me build a platform to actually springboard my passion, which is health and fitness business. So I run a business called the Body Transformation Coach, which is really taking busy professionals through a health transformation and making lasting lifestyle changes. So it's not just a 12-week, 16-week or however long diet. It's about helping them upgrade habits, form things that allow them to serve them long term rather than short term, extend their timeline on the planet disease free, and making it all fit around the busyness of life, corporate pressures, travel, family, all of the things that we face as in our day-to-day lives really. And yeah, thankfully social media has allowed me to work this business from anywhere in the world. So right now I'm residing in sunny Crete, not so sunny today, but usually is. And and just really be a present father. So I'm a father of 2 young children, a 2 and a 3-year-old, and my wife also runs a business online. So it just fits perfectly around my core values and my passion, and I'm really what it is I'm striving to do now, which is impact the world in terms of health and changing the perspective and mindsets of those that are willing to listen.
And what made you go from IT? Because obviously a 16-year career in IT is a big thing to suddenly go, right, okay, I'm gonna go from that and I'm gonna drop all that great career. I'm sure you had a good salary and nice car, nice house, and go, right, I'm gonna jump into fitness now, because it's poles apart.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, in the background, what kind of went on through my younger life was my mum and dad divorced at a young age. I was 12 when that happened. My mum, who I lived with, turned to alcohol and food abuse to deal with that trauma. And that continued to snowball outside of control. So I seen her go from a size 12 to a size 26. As a result of that damage to her lifestyle, additional things started to happen. She suffers with bipolar, depression, anxiety, all of those things that she faces as a result. And again, really, being in that environment where alcohol was sometimes chosen over things like basic essentials like electricity and gas, it made me go the other way, Ryan, to be honest. I decided at a very young age to start learning about nutrition. I changed my environment and joined the gym at like 14, started weight training, learning about the impact of, food and how that helps you grow and build the muscle mass. And my passion really began there. And, I feel like the IT thing at the time, bearing in mind, this is going back to when I was leaving school, which was 1997, technology was just on the cusp of coming a thing. So I really chased the money. I looked at IT as a good way to build a career and build a good income. And there was really never the point of where I could pivot away from IT, where I was earning quite a good income from that, to go into the world of personal training, right? Because at the time it was like, unsociable hours, long days, very little pay. So it wasn't until this thing, online coaching, become available, and having a way to springboard my name and build a personal brand through social media like LinkedIn, where I predominantly operate, that really opened the gate for me. So it was in 2016 that I made that decision. Alongside that, in the background as well, I used to compete. So it was in May 2014. That was where I placed 3rd in the World Fitness Champions for physique.
That's amazing.
So that was really like the platform that got my name out there. and at the time mainly through Facebook. And then I decided, because of my target audience was those that are busy professionals, I pivoted to LinkedIn, and that's where I operate today.
I mean, that's an interesting thing to say, actually, in terms of, we'll just jump onto that, because a lot of online coaches and a lot of personal trainers will hit Facebook, Instagram, because very much image based, very much where they feel their market is. Yet you've decided, because you're looking after the busy professionals, that LinkedIn is the way to go. And I guess a lot of people don't see that. They see it more as in, obviously, people like me, a consultant or whatever, is LinkedIn. But you've made that a huge success by doing that.
Yeah, look, don't get me wrong, Ryan. I remember hitting the market on LinkedIn in 2016 about launching an online fitness business and sharing transformations, and people going, "This is not Facebook, right?" And it didn't land as well as it does today, because the platform has evolved and grown into a very different experience. You know, it used to be regarded as an online CV effectively, and now we know it's much more than that. So, you know, again, back then it did take a bit of mindset shift, but I persevered. And one of the things that I used to always say is, look, you know, you may be selling insurance, but I'm selling health transformations, and my results are demonstrated with a before and after. So yes, and one of the key things that I always link it to is, like, I treat any business owner like an athlete in the sport of business, because just take dehydration. If you're just 2% dehydrated, then you're up to 30% reduction in your cognitive function, right?
Wow.
So just that small little element of lack of water impacts your mental focus and ability by up to 30%. It's massive. So it all comes back to being as a business owner or a high performing person in business, by looking after your health as the supporting pillar to that.
I always find LinkedIn strange, because obviously I've been on it. I was looking the other day, strangely, 2008, I think it was, something strange like that. I've been on there pretty much from the start, and it's changed massively over time. And it very much was, I mean, people used to moan if they got an unsolicited email, and you're like going, that's what it's for? Surely that's the whole idea of LinkedIn. It's reaching out. It's, if you don't like what that person's offering, fine, just send them a note and say, no, thank you, not for me. And I'm a big believer that I respond to anybody who messages me, wherever it's about. If it's not for me, quick message, no thanks, so they don't have to keep chasing and everything else. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? 5-10 years ago, it's there as a CV, it's there as your Rolodex in essence, and that's pretty much what it is. And now it has changed very much into, you see a lot more personal stuff on there. I'm not saying it needs to be Facebook, but there's a lot, it has changed massively. And I think it works very nicely for a business like yours, that's going after that busy professional, that type of person. And people are more willing or more accepting of those sorts of videos. I think it's great. It's still a business that you're running in the end of the day. It's just a different type of business to an IT consultant or whatever. So absolutely a place for that. Just in terms of obviously looking at your staff and obviously knowing working with Glenda, you do far more than just being an online coach. I don't mean it that way, but you're not just an online coach. Obviously, you do a lot more stuff with your business.
Correct. Yeah. So we also operate in the corporate wellness space, or what I call work-life wellbeing. So again, it's about, it doesn't stop and start when you enter the door of your building. Things like financial wellness and mental, as I call it, mental fitness rather than mental health, because I think we all have our ups and down days, right? So it doesn't mean we're mentally not healthy when we have a day where life hits us in a different angle. So a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about is not just about helping people transform their own health, but also thinking about it from a company perspective. Like, just take water as an example. If you've not got stations set up in places where it's convenient for people to grab water, then the cognitive function of all of your organization could be 30% down, right? So it could be as simple as that, making sure that people, if they're getting emailed late in the evening and they feel like they have to respond, that's affecting their stress levels and the blue light exposure, so they're struggling to sleep, and that has an impact on how they eat the next day and how they perform the next day. So they're all interconnected. I think the key message is that I'm trying to get people to think and feel differently. And I also to, coming back to how I use the platform, it's really about sharing things that people can relate to. If you've got family, it can be difficult to try and squeeze all of that in, plus manage running companies. So for me, it's really when what I'm finding is the common theme is that the business owner has a transformation and they feel and think differently, and obviously see the results themselves. And then they went, imagine if I do this to my entire organization. And that's where it's opened up that new pathway.
Do you see that? Do you see that happening quite a lot then, Mark? Do you see that you work with the CEO or one of the senior directors in the business, and then suddenly they go, right, Mark, we need to get you in to do the whole thing, because this
massively. And this is the reason why we've moved in this direction. And I'm really excited to launch that supporting pillar to the business. So yeah, there's been 2 examples of that this year where I've been exposed to entire companies and starting to really create a strategy with their leadership team on how we can change some of the things that they're struggling with. And one of the big areas that we see is obviously stress, which is impacting mental wellness. So again, all of this is about making sure we're helping that company change that within.
And what sort of things are you doing with the company? Because obviously, as you know, I know Glenda really well, so and her whole business is sat in that corporate wellbeing and wellness and resilient space. So, what sort of things are you guys doing? Because it's huge now. It literally, if a company doesn't have a wellbeing program, then really they need to get a clip around the back of the head and get themselves sorted, because it is such a big element to driving performance, to driving wellness, to driving engagement. I mean, I do work with Vitality, and you see all the stats that come out of a company that's invested in their staff from a well-being perspective. The performance levels are, I mean, you're not looking 1 or 2%. You're looking 30, 40, 50% improvements in business performance and engagement. So it's such a big field. So in terms of Mark Bryce's business, what are you guys doing when you go into these companies?
Yeah, so obviously we are linked with Glenda in this partnership and what we do. So there's 4 pillars to our business, which is called White Label Wellbeing. And the 4 pillars are nourishment, which is the fuel that you're consuming. You've got movement, which is physical movement. It can be, anything from, step challenges, but variously there's monthly challenges that are put out. You've got resilience, which is obviously where Glenda's specialities come into play. And then you've also got life, which is really the life events that are taking place around a corporate. So what corporate events or what themes are, in terms of talking about challenges and stuff like this. It could be, the step challenge month and various other themed months. So effectively, we are a membership that supports a HR function and takes all of the weight of workplace wellness and provides them with an insight in terms of what's coming, and then provide them with digital assets in order to support them in those 4 pillars. So the digital assets are really about that. Now, where somebody starts on that journey is effectively an assessment phase where we understand, and they don't have to jump in, but we'd recommend that they do an assessment. They understand what their employees are thinking and feeling about their workplace wellness, where the areas of focus need to be, and then create a strategy around that. And then those digital assets are going to help support them through that. And some of them are videos, some of them are articles, some of them are actually written challenges that are incorporated into. So again, it's each different flavor for different styles of learning as well, rather than it just being a one size fits all. And this is all company branded, so you wouldn't know that White Label Wellbeing was operating with your company. You just think the company was delivering these digital assets because it's all branded to your company.
Wow. I mean, the thing is, Mark, it's so imperative now, because if we have a look at the industry, and there's only sort of 15 to 20% of the people engaged with fitness clubs in essence. So where are the rest gonna get this support and guidance? And it's a bit like when people go, how did you meet your missus? At work. Well, you spend 8 to 10 hours a day at work, so there's a very good chance you're going to meet your future partner in your place of employment. And it's probably the same when it comes to fitness and wellness and health and well-being. If you're going to get that support, where's the most likely place you're going to get it? Unless you're actively going to go and seek it yourself, it's probably going to be through a place you're spending all your time, which is work. So this sort of thing makes absolute sense. And I implore any company to go on and jump on and speak to you guys, because I think it's definitely the way forward.
Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, I mean, it's 1/3 of our lives is spent at work, which is quite surreal, and the other 1/3 is spent in bed, right? So there's your life over an 8-year period. It's crazy, but if you're not happy in your environment for 1/3 of your life, then obviously there's a fundamental issue there, and if a company is looking at this and thinking, do we need to do anything? Well, a clear sign of it is obviously company retention and sickness days, okay? Because the biggest sickness day in terms of time is mental health, right? Which is one of the reasons why making sure you've got a good corporate wellness strategy is absolutely fundamental if you care about those two areas. So, again, but productivity levels, the numbers kind of, there's so many stats around the industry, and making sure that you're looking after your employees is a fundamental. It's going to hit your bottom line regardless of however you look at it. So yeah.
Absolutely. Now let's just flick back to your sort of transformation program in terms of what you do. What made you decide that you would do it sort of online and look at it that approach rather than sort of, because obviously with someone with your skill set and everything, you could have easily walked into a gym, set up your own club, and gone down that route. What made you say, do you know what, I'm going to do this differently? Because like you were saying at the time, it probably was just on the verge of really pushing with social media and so on. So it certainly was a risk to go online, rather than you could have quite easily gone, do you know what, I know what I'm doing in business, I know how to do it, I'm just going to jump in, open my own gym and do PT and whatever that way. What made you go the other route?
Kids mean the main thing, because before this obviously come about, we've got a 2 and a 3-year-old, so they're fairly new additions. But I always remember I used to work Monday to Friday, and I lived in a hotel Monday to Friday. My last company I worked for was in Bournemouth, and I'm based in Manchester. So that was a travel down either Sunday night or very early Monday morning. And then I'd live in the hotel Monday to Friday, come home Friday night, exhausted, had no time left, no energy left to even spend some quality time with my wife and rinse and repeat. And I remember saying to her, like, when we got married, that if I'm going to do this, whatever I do, I need to, and we're going to have kids, I want to be a dad that's present and that's, around, not one that's invisible. So that was really the key driver, if I'm being honest, Ryan, to make the move online, whether it's in IT or whether it's following my passion and taking that jump. So that allowed us, and then I've kind of had that philosophy on whatever business I create next, it has to tick the box of being online. I'm not interested in owning a gym because it requires me being there, unless I'm having people to manage in that environment. I just want something that allows me to be completely flexible, because although I'm in Crete now, it could be Bali, it could be anywhere really. It's wherever I fancy and feel at the time, and I kind of live each day like that. Is that having that flexibility and being able to build the business that fits around my schedule, not the other way around, really. But in terms of the other thing that I feel is very important when I'm helping someone go through this transformation process is all about mindset, right? So you can have the right training program and the right nutrition program, but if you can't sustain it, what's the point? I always say, and my company is built off this principle, it's not how fast you get there, it's how long you stay there, which means it's if you could not say, whatever change you make to your healthy lifestyle or unhealthy lifestyle, that you should be able to say, if I ask you the question, could you do this forever? The answer should be yes. If the answer is no, then what does maintenance look like? And most people don't think about that when they start one of these fad diets, where it has a start and an end date, and it's generally linked to a holiday or some sort of special event in the diary. And unfortunately, this is what keeps people stuck in the yo-yo diet. So the first principle of change that I take someone on is mindset for lasting change. I teach them the principle of breaking that diet mentality and adjusting it to thinking, like how life should be thought about, which is there's going to be red dots, what I call enjoyment days, and there's going to be opportunity days, which I call the time where you can potentially get that day right. But the goal is, if you zoom out, is to look at the actual diary of, let's say, a year of 365 squares. You put your red dots in place where you know there's a Christmas, a birthday, a holiday, a wedding, whatever it may be. You can almost predict them right now, and just accept that they're always going to be there. And I call those enjoyment days rather than cheat days, because again, we're designed to enjoy things like Christmas and, you know, Easter and all of those events that are always going to be there. And then the rest of the days that are blank squares are your opportunity days. They're an opportunity to put a green dot in, which would represent a healthy day. But then when you start to then look at it, and let's just say you've got an event in this Friday evening where you're going out with some friends and you're socializing, well, there's still an opportunity within that day. Although that evening time is going to be a red dot, right? You've still got the opportunity to win breakfast and win lunch. So don't write off the entire day, and definitely don't go into the diet mentality of going, I'm going to start again on Monday, or I'm going to start a new year, or I'm going to start after this holiday. All you do.
I love that approach, because it's always, it's as if that I don't know, it's a whole mental change just because it's a new day. It doesn't make sense to me. So it's like the whole thing, New Year's Day, we're going to have New Year's resolutions, and the way we're going. Why is the 1st of January any different to the 31st of December? There isn't one.
No, exactly.
I've never understood that.
People are looking for a clear run. They're looking for a perfect run. But let me tell you something, and just make it really simple for you to begin tomorrow. Is there's no perfect run in life. You're going to get hit by traumas. There's also going to be holidays and birthdays and weddings. There's always going to be Christmases. Them events are going to be there. I always say to my best clients, get the most amazing results who start in December, right? Because they're willing to embrace those bumps and still learn through the process. And the best lessons are in those approaches where they go on holiday, and I say to the client when they return, I say, okay, you've been on holiday, you had an amazing time. Would you have done anything differently, right? What have you learned from that holiday where you could have potentially have, got your breakfast right? Forget the rest of the time. You just might be winning breakfast. That's it. So it's just about looking for those lessons within all of our failures that we experience in life, right? Like we do in business, our best lessons come from failures. It's the same within our health.
And in terms of that sort of driven your business, and then roughly sort of how many clients do you tend to work with on a general basis each month?
So I only work with 12, Ryan,
okay,
in a set period. So effectively, until one comes to an end, I can't start a new client. Reason why I do that is, one, the fees that I charge are specifically to keep the numbers tight, but also because I don't want to oversubscribe myself, because my course is quite detail orientated. So, for instance, we do a 2-hour lifestyle assessment at the start where I understand you and build a profile. I'll configure things that are specific to you in terms of how many times a week you want to train, what you've got access to, your nutrition requirements. I'll give you a bunch of recommendations to make it easy to fit around your busy lifestyle. Your unhealthy vices, we'll try and find healthier ways to tick those boxes. And then we'll begin a series of 12 check-in calls. Each call's an hour to an hour and a half. There's a principle that I teach you during the process. So again, 12 principles along the way. So effectively, it's a very time-intense process. But my goal by the end of it is to make the client independent of people like me, because they've learned why they're doing what they're doing. Not just here's the tools, your training plan, your nutrition plan. We've upgraded habits along the way. We've put them on the right path. They feel that they can do it forever. So it's a very different way of working. And, like I say, that's just one side of my business. Then it brings me into the corporate world and looking after the people of, the companies that they run, as well as the other side.
Oh, no, absolutely. But I think in terms of looking at it, then Mark, it's quite a unique approach, because quite often what a PT will do is they'll get them in, and it's almost a quick turnaround, get some quick results, and almost sort of exacerbates the theory about start now, quick results, get it done, and then they move on. Where yours is very much around a lifestyle change, and so you've got that longevity going forward. And would you say a lot of your stuff is based around the nutrition and mindset, and the training is sort of secondary to getting those other elements right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, one of the key principles that I teach people is what's called triggers and responses, which is all about habit formation. If you've ever read the Atomic Habits book by James Clear, that'll give you a very good understanding. But, I just take somebody, let's say the type of person that works extremely long hours. They come home from work, they're exhausted, they need something to eat. They open the whatever, they don't want to cook at that time of the day when they get home. They haven't prepared anything because they're out the door early, they're at home late. I would get them eating a ping and ding microwave meal that's going to give them some good nutrition, right? Rather than trying to, make a fresh meal. So again, that's not what I want them to do all the time. Ideally, I'd like them to do some preparation that'll allow them to cook, a batch of meals for Monday to Wednesday on a Sunday night when they've maybe got more time, or even cooking an evening meal and then making more of it and spilling it over into lunch the next day. So I'm looking for ways to save them time, because all of the people that I work with, they like time and structure. And if we can fix those things in convenient ways, it's always going to be the easiest way. So everything I get them to do is about habit upgrades. And in order to make a habit stick, we have to add more friction into the things that they don't want in life and remove the friction of the things they do want in life. i.e., if somebody wants to go and work out and they're currently, wanting to do it first thing in the morning because that's the only time that they've got available. And currently they are a member of a gym, but they've got to get to that gym. They've got to go in the winter time, they've got to go down, they've got to de-ice the car, they've got to make sure they've got the gym clothes and the work clothes because they're going straight from the gym. Then ultimately there's all these levels of friction, and the easiest thing to do when you're tired in the morning is just to hit the snooze button, right? Take that same person, give them a home gym setup, move the phone from the side of the bed and put it on the other side of the room. They go into the extremes of getting them to go to bed in their gym gear. They've got to get up out of bed, walk to the phone to hit the snooze button before they've even thought about it, because they're now out of bed by the phone to do that, what they would usually do as an auto response. They're now in the mindset of, well, I'm already ready. My gym's downstairs. There's no friction, right? So we can get someone training just by removing some of the things that are causing. Take the same person who's maybe drinking a can of Coke Zero or Coca-Cola every single day. Every time they open the fridge, because they stack it in there, it's easy, right? Just grab a can and away they go. Stop adding that shipment so that it's in your fridge every single week. So every time you go shopping, if you want to get a can of Coke Zero Diet or normal Coke, then you've got to go to the shop to go and get that. That's the condition that you create that environment to add more friction to. So it's very different. It's about mindset and upgrading habits rather than here's your diet and nutrition plan, because that tends to be, short.
It's interesting you say about things like the microwave meals. I suffer from chronic fatigue, and so I can have some really good days, and I'll eat really healthy. I'll spend half an hour, 40 minutes prepping a nice meal, and I generally eat quite well. If I get hit by a bout of my CFS, it's almost impossible. The last thing you want to do, a bit like a busy person, the last thing you want to do is sit there prepping stuff, chopping whatever it is to have a nice nutritious meal. And so I have the ready meals in the freezer. It's something my girlfriend said. She said, just have ready meals. I know they're not ideal. They're not your greatest nutritional meal that you're ever going to have, but it saves you eating, because what you tend to do then is you'll eat a sandwich, then you'll crave sugary stuff because you're desperate to get that sort of impact food. And then you start eating crap, and then before long, if it lasts for a week or so, all you've done is eating rubbish for a week, and then you feel even worse, and it just the cycle carries on. And like you say, just if you're busy and you just whack it in the micro, 5 meals you've eaten, relatively, you can get some decent meals, but at least you've not then gone down the route of all the horrible stuff because your body's craving sugars or craving salts or whatever it is. And it's quite an interesting thing you say that.
Yeah, look, Ryan, again, I'll share this as a resource that people can just get for free. I put together this little, what I call a healthy snacking cheat sheet, and it's got links to all of these products that I'm going to mention here. But first one is GSN Pot O Gold. They are a frozen meal that have a balance of high protein, low sugar, complex carbohydrates. So effectively, they're as good as a whole food meal that you can get in a frozen meal. The other one is My Protein. They sell now through Iceland. So they've come up with a partnership with those.
Wow.
So again, if you go into Iceland, you'll find my protein balanced meals that are frozen. And the other one that is available in quite a few supermarkets is My Gym Kitchen. It's called Gym Kitchen, not My Gym Kitchen. And that they have a whole blend of different stuff that's, even things that you can put in a microwave that are like in pouches. So rather than, if you are traveling a lot, obviously taking a frozen meal with you will defrost. And you may not, if you're living in hotels like I did, then that might not be an option. And then the other things are even more convenient when even you've not got time to eat. It's things like meal replacement shakes. People say, oh, I'd rather eat whole food, but cereal and toast, which is how most people start their day, and a sandwich or a meal deal, how most people eat lunch, are the foods. They're not real foods. They're convenient foods that have a lot of junk and additives in them. So if the alternative is drinking a meal replacement shake, that's a better alternative, because as long as it's got a good vitamin and mineral profile, as long as it's got protein, fats, and carbs, and it's giving you everything you need, that you could drink it in 30 seconds, why wouldn't you want that as an alternative? So
the biggest challenge with that, Mark, and because I tried Huel for a while, and the biggest challenge I found was the mental change from drinking your food to eating your food. It's a bit like when you give up smoking. I smoked 20 years ago, but when I smoked, it was that habit of the hand to mouth, and it's a big thing to give up. And I found the biggest change of doing that mentally was the drinking my lunch. It took a lot to get used to.
So here's what you can do about that, Ryan, is you take that same meal replacement and you put it over just plain oats, and you add water onto it, and you mix it up into a nice thick consistency, throw in some blueberries, throw in some nuts, and make it a little bit more, crunchy. So it's going to add more calories into the meal, but you can sit there and eat your shake, right? So if you've got time to do that and you prefer to do it that way, then that would be my recommendation.
I never considered that before. In terms of now, obviously you're incredibly successful at what you do, Mark. And if someone was looking on and sort of going, do you know what? I'm thinking of why should I do online? Why should I do what Mark does? What would you say is the biggest recommendations, or one, how to start? Should they start, or is it just something that you're very good at? So I've cornered the market. I know what I'm doing. Or is it something that you'd recommend PTs doing rather than going and paying their £600 in a gym and pushing that way?
Yeah, look, and it doesn't have to be one size fits all. It could be a hybrid of things. So you could still do your physical training. If you love physically training people and that one-to-one connection, then absolutely stay in that as well. But if you want to scale your time and serve more people, then you have to look at ways that you can do that. And that might be doing like group fitness classes online. That might be doing things that are going to allow you to serve a community of people. It doesn't have to be one-to-one like I'm doing. And it definitely doesn't have to be as intense. The limiting factor of my business is scalability, right? I only scale it to 12 for a specific reason. But there's a reason for that, is it opens up me to the business, and then that allows me to build a really good relationship with that business owner. So it doesn't have to be that way, but ultimately you can decide on how you can serve people through online platforms. Absolutely. I think there's, it's a smart way of doing business these days. And some people, need that additional support and accountability that you can't offer just through that one-to-one coaching. So it might be you're still doing your physical training with the client, but you have an online check-in somewhere within the week that that every Friday comes, right? The weekend warrior comes out and they become a different person. But if you're training somebody and they're not getting results, we know that is likely due to their nutrition more so than anything else. So if you can offer both ends of those, one maybe online and one offline, then ultimately you're gonna accelerate your results, you're gonna accelerate your business, and you can serve more people through an online space platform. So yeah, go down that route.
And then did you get most of your, in terms of your nutrition stuff, obviously I followed you for a while with your MotivateME and everything else. Now, your nutrition knowledge is almost second. You're very clued up on what you do, Mark. Is that through qualifications that you've done? Is it just through the immense amount of reading and learning that you do on a day-to-day basis? Where does your nutrition background come from?
Yeah, obviously, a lot of it come from just the younger age of being a geek and getting my head in a book. I've always had that passion to, if I've got time to read something, it'll always be nutrition or mindset related, in what I like to delve into. But also, I'm a qualified personal trainer. I have got a background in nutrition as well. So all of those things are fundamental. But again, if you can get a client results, there's no greater qualification than actually being able to do that. So, effectively, that's what people care about the most is, you can have all the qualifications, but if you can't get them a client results, then they're kind of irrelevant in that respect when it comes to online business. So, it could be as simple as starting out, that you offer 5 people who want to make a lifestyle change, a chance to work with you for free, and you prove your theory through that approach, with the agreement that they're willing to share their experiences and you're willing to share their results. And that could be the springboard to launching your business, because you've got to start somewhere. I think one of the slow burners is obviously building up a personal brand. You've got to give as much free value as you possibly can through platforms wherever you operate. So for me, LinkedIn, starting out many years ago, I had barely 500 connections to where I am now, which is coming up to 110,000 followers. Wow. That happens just consistently by doing every single day, pretty much from that day, making that decision. I've done at least one post. It's giving all my best stuff away for free, whether it's through value-driven content on video, whether it's giving digital assets for free, whether it's, again, a lot of the stuff that I give away has built that brand that has enabled me to bring me to where I am today. So it does take a lot of work. It is a slow process, but ultimately, if you can help impact the world and you're really passionate about that anyway, then it doesn't really matter. The result will come inevitable. It's just a way of you getting your message out there.
I think that's the key message here, Mark. I mean, I've found it with my business. You can't expect to suddenly jump onto LinkedIn or social media and expect results tomorrow. And I think that's what a lot of people do. They throw a lot of money into ads, a lot of money and suddenly think, I'm going to be this massive quick win, and people are going to start buying my product. And it doesn't work that way. Even with a lot of ad spend, it doesn't guarantee a lot of results. I think you've got to go on there. You've got to be present. You've got to be honest. You've got to show who you are. And that's the one thing that's always come across on your stuff. There's no lying about who you are. And you find a lot of stuff, Mark, in people in your field, what they portray online and what they actually do are quite a different beast. And I think honesty on the approach in terms of how you're living and how you're doing things and whatever, I think come across far better than just trying to pretend we get these, because not everything you produce is you do them, but it's not a before and after on everything you do. You also talk about your lifestyle. You talk about in terms of nutrition support and everything else that goes with it. And I think that's as important, so people understand you and they buy into you rather than just those results.
Yeah, you nailed that, Ryan. I think vulnerability is a superpower that most people don't play that card. When it comes down to it, we all have stuff going on that could effectively, throw us off track or make us eat unhealthy. And having, being honest about it, I'm not perfect every single day. I don't want to be, to be honest. I like a curry. I like an old fashioned, which is like a whiskey cocktail. I like to have these things. I just do it in moderation, right? So I'm not practicing what I don't preach. I'm not preaching what I don't practice. I'm also about a balanced lifestyle, and it has to be fun, right? Otherwise, what is the point, right? We're trying to eat out chicken, broccoli, brown rice out of Tupperware. There's only so long you can sustain that, right? Especially when life hits you hard, So I'll always share my where I am in terms of what I'm going through, and again, a lot of people, the unfortunate thing is they'll show you the highlight reels of what's going on in their life. They won't show you the downsides, the dark days, the stuff that's impacting your mental and physical well-being. So all of that really matters. And I think that's why people relate to me, because they understand that maybe if they have got a family, they're like, this is the guy I want to work with, because he's got 2 young kids. He knows the challenges that I'm facing. He knows that I'm going to be stressed out of my mind when I've got kids and business and all of the other things that are throwing me out of balance sometimes. And he knows, he knows how he's giving me all of this free value along the way. So I've kind of bought into him before I know what he actually sells. And that's really where I believe a lot of people, they'll focus more on the sales than the actual value that they bring to the market.
I think that's true. I think it's not all about the sale, is it? It's if you can get people to buy into what you do. I love it nothing more than when someone goes, I've seen you loads on LinkedIn and now I need some support. I'll reach out, but I've been following you for 5 years or whatever it is. And I like that because it means I've clearly added some value along the way. And it's just they didn't need it until now. And now they've reached out because they think I can add some value to their business directly. So I always think that's a nice approach to have. So just a couple of things before we finish, Mark, because obviously we've had you on for a while. In terms of where the fitness industry is going, do you think we're going to lead more to this online platform or do you think we're going to get more of a balance as to where we are now?
Yeah, look, I'll tell you what I'm scared of right now because it'll kind of bring me back to it. But I'm scared of things like people looking for the next quick fix, which is right now there's a thing called Ozempic and Wegovy, which are designed for diabetes. They're a semaglutide.
I think I've seen this.
And effectively what they do is they suppress appetite. But there's a load of side effects that comes with it from, nausea, constipation, diarrhea, and other gut-related issues as well. And the problem with those things is they suppress the appetite whilst you're on the thing, right? But you can't live your life on the thing for starters. And the second thing is we don't know the repercussions that are going to have further down the line. So those things do worry me a lot. And in the fitness space, obviously, this is why it works well for somebody to get someone quick results, is because it's sellable. Like, no, if someone says, here's Joe, she's lost 2 stone in 30 days, and then you've got me going, here's Jane, she's lost 12 pounds in 12 weeks. Everyone's like, I want Joe's result. Forget Jane, right? But Jane may have completely changed her life. Her continuation journey doesn't stop at the 12 pounds in 12 weeks. She's formed new habits and created that path. So I feel like there needs to be a lot more conversation around how to sustain results rather than just get the results. Because the impact is as a statistic, is that out of 10 people, 8 people will rebound to old habits and back to old weights beyond 24 weeks, right? So we have to change the way that we think about however we're going to tackle this. And obviously, nutrition, the goal with any lifestyle change should be, how can I significantly increase my chances of extending my timeline on this planet disease-free? If you align to that goal as to why you're making a healthy change, then you have to think, well, could I do whatever the next thing is forever? And if that's fitness, that has to be something you love. It may just be, Ryan, that you've not actually tasted it yet. It might be, I've never played hockey. I might really love hockey. I might be really good at it, but I've never played it. So taste everything at least once. I was speaking to my wife the other day and she's like, do you know what? Do you want to try yoga? And I'm like, I probably need to do this. I'm old, I'm unflexible, and I've never tried it. So let's not say no. Let's just.
My ex-wife was a yoga instructor and she was always trying to get me to do it. I still haven't got into that. And I'm like you. I know I'm 47. I was 47 at the weekend. I know I've got to be doing yoga. It just is, but I just can't quite bring myself yet to do it.
But the thing is, Ryan, you might try yoga and go, it's not for me. And that's okay, because it's not for everyone. Going to the gym and lifting weights isn't for everyone. Going to, running isn't for me. So you've got to find the thing that's for you. And if you enjoy the thing, it becomes a way of life. If you don't enjoy the thing, the likelihood of continuing the thing is very unlikely.
I think an interesting point you raised there is that fact of what can I do now to increase my time on Earth longer? And I think the problem we have with our industry is we sell something that actually doesn't have instant results. So the mindset of people now is I buy something, I want it now. And it's very, very much that's what it is. Everything we buy now is instant or almost. Yet fitness and being healthy isn't. It's the one thing in life you can't just go and pay your money to the gym or to yourself or whoever today and have results tomorrow or within a week. Let's be honest. If you genuinely, I mean, you don't even see physical results quite often, or decent physical results, for 6 weeks. I mean, I can remember when I was a PT, it was pretty much you're going to feel better, you're going to, you're going to have more energy, whatever. But you might not actually see that many great results for 6 to 8 weeks. That's when you look in the mirror and you go, oh, where are they? They'll come, but they're not coming in that first 6 weeks. You might step on a scale and lose a couple of pounds or whatever. But when you look in the mirror, you're not necessarily going to see them. And it's a strange industry to be in then when someone's buying and they're almost having to go, I'm putting my faith in someone that I'm going to get my results longer term. And I think that potentially is some of the challenge we face as an industry, because we don't have that red pill, blue pill scenario where you go, there you go, that's what you're going to have.
Yeah, exactly. And, again, we are living in a world of instant gratification with, social media and all of that. So it is a change in perspective in terms of thinking about it. And I always get a client to do one thing whenever they start with me, and I get them to answer the question, like, why now? Write your why statement out. And then when you've got that why statement, and it should shift the needle from logic to emotion, which I always say, emotion drives motion, right? So whatever that why statement is, it'll sound something like this. I'm a dad of 2. My children enjoy swimming, but I'll be honest, I don't participate because I'm embarrassed to take my top off. And so I watch from the sidelines. When I come home from work, I've got no energy. So I'm a shell of a dad. All I want to do is just go to bed or just lounge on the sofa. I don't want to be that dad. Also, fundamentally, I understand that what I do is what they'll fundamentally replicate. So if I'm not eating healthy, their likelihood of not eating healthy is gonna be increased significantly. So I want to be the example to my children by leading a healthy lifestyle and making a healthy lifestyle change. That why statement there, I'd encourage you then to share it with at least 3 people you spend the most amount of time with, because your environment is everything, whether that's people, places, or plugins. All of those things are impacting you in a positive or a negative way. So if you tell your wife this and you read that why statement to her, and then you say, will you hold me accountable? Of course, she's going to say yes, because she's going to want to support you with that meaningful vulnerability that you've expressed. And then you give a statement that's going to say, and here's how you can help me. Whether that's, we're going to try different recipes, whether it's going to subscribe to Gusto, whatever works for your family. Ultimately, it's about aligning to it and then bringing them along on the journey. So you have the healthy ripple effect. And just coming back to the earlier point of understanding why you're doing it as well is about that longevity mindset that you want to extend your timeline on the planet. But let's just take it back to fitness, right? Just by doing resistance training, i.e. lifting weights or weight bearing exercises, you're not only going to increase your lean muscle mass and flexibility and strength, you're actually building what I call your health pension. So when you come to retire, where most people they have that vision of what retirement looks like, whether it's going to travel the world or, do something with that additional time that they've got available. Like resistance training is actually building bone density, right? So bone density is why a 70-year-old person who, trips over a curb and ends up breaking the hip, right? And then ends up in hospital and doesn't have a fast recovery time, and then it can lead to other things. So if you take if you invest in resistance training, whether that's home bearing exercises, like press ups, dips, pull ups, those sort of exercises that you can do from home, or even lifting weights, then ultimately you're building your health pension. So that when you get to 70, you're still going to be fit, strong, mobile. If you fall over, you're going to be able to either not break something or recover quickly from it. So that's the mindset that you have to think about. It's like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I investing 2 hours of my week to go and do resistance training? It's because I want to be a 70-year-old that's still lifting things up and still being able to chop wood up or whatever it may be, but being able to live a great life later in life when we come to retire.
We had funnily enough, me and Glenda had a really interesting conversation about this very point, the fact that there's a big difference between being able to enjoy retirement, so being old and still active, and just being old, because you could live to 100. but you could have 20 years of that in a wheelchair or not, or, you know, just sat watching telly or whatever, because you're not fit or healthy to be able to go out and enjoy those last 20 years. Or you can be a fit and healthy older person and act pretty much going on, carrying on, enjoying the. Obviously, you're not going to go run. Well, some run a marathon, but generally, you're not going to be doing the same things you're doing in your 40s. But you're still going to be active enough to be able to go on holiday and go and see the world and do all those different things, even into your 90s, because you've been fit and healthy all the way through life, and you're not carrying all that baggage of life into your later life. And it does make a big difference. You see two people of the same age, and you go, they're living two completely different lives because of what they did in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and how they lived.
Absolutely. Let's bring it back to some real basics. Like, it could just be that the person right now, Ryan, who's listening to this, is having two sugars in the brew, right? And they're having 4 brews a day, right? So there's 8 sugars that they're consuming. Like, let's make it really simple from a habit formation, that maybe they just go down to 1 sugar a day, right? In each brew. So now we're going to 4. Now, they're not going to see a result of that in a week, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, but compound that over the course of 10 years. Let's all those little compound changes make a significant health difference, right? So it's about doing these small steps in the right direction, whether it's an extra glass a day that you're consuming of water, whether it's reducing your sugar in your brew, whether it's, you know, switching away from a high sugar chocolate bar to a high protein, low sugar chocolate bar. Like, find a way to enjoy the things you enjoy, but in either moderation or healthier substitution. They're the 2 things on how we make it really simple to start making the right steps in the right direction. But don't try and do what everybody does come New Year, which is they start a diet, they stop drinking, they join a gym, right? And they wonder why come March they quit, because it's too much change. There's no fun in the enjoyment, because they've gone from not training, eating junk food and drinking every single night, a couple of beers a night, right? When you take all that away, like, it's too radical. So let's just start small and build often. That's my closing message on any form of change.
Brilliant. Well, we'll sort of finish it there. I've just got one more question, which we ask all of our guests, Mark, in terms of what motivates you. Now, we try and avoid family, just because we know family is such a huge motivator. And I know, just speaking to you over the last sort of hour, that's a huge motivator for you. But what would you say, or who in a professional outset or outfit, sorry, that you would say that's someone I look up to, or that's something I look towards to motivate me to do what I do?
I think the fundamental motivators to do what I do is because of the lack of education that's around nutrition in general. So, if I look at statistics, that's the biggest motivator for me right now, is that you've got a global population that's increasing in size, and health marker diseases like diabetes. Those 2 things, obesity and diabetes, are spiraling out of control. And that is one of the biggest epidemics of death that we're facing. And do you know what the most important thing about it is that it can all be changed by having the right knowledge on what to look out for. So the food industry are doing what I call manipulative marketing. They'll tell you everything you want to hear on the label. They'll tell you it's low fat. They'll tell you it's high in fiber. But then you flip over the packet and it'll be loaded with sugar or additives or, oils that are sufficiently increasing your, the amount of omega-6s in your diet. So again, all of these things that are impacting our health, we can navigate around by just spreading awareness and knowledge. So how can we do that? First of all, obviously putting out as much free value. On a one-to-one scale, it's very difficult. So this is the reason why, Ryan, we're scaling into companies rather than just individuals, and being able to educate from within. So my ultimate thing that I'd love to see happen in my lifetime is having nutrition education in the schooling system. I believe it's a life or death skill. It's definitely better than maths, religious education, and all of the things that we can live without, right? But if we
finance and nutrition, the two things that should be in school that aren't. So we don't teach kids how to run their finances, and yet so they're all in debt. And yet we don't teach our kids to eat or live healthily, and yet we've got a massive obesity crisis and everything. And the two things that would change the world, change the outcomes of our kids, are not looked at in school. I'd rather them ditch history, geography, I mean, maths potentially, but obviously algebra and all that sort of rubbish. But a lot of the stuff that we teach our kids, I've said it for years, the education system is just wrong. We teach the same things now as we taught in the 1800s.
Yeah,
it just doesn't make sense to me.
And that's the problem. But I guess as well, from the angle that I'm coming at right now and where I can make an impact is if I can teach people within the workplace how to make these small incremental lifestyle changes that take them in the right direction, and learn the principles on the things that we should have been taught in school, but in a non-scientific, in a simple term, because I've got a simple mind, then ultimately I believe I can start to make change. That will then have a ripple effect on their children, even if that education piece is missing right now.
Absolutely. Well, we'll end it there, Mark. I think that's. I mean, it's a great thing that you're doing. I think in terms of your business, it's amazing. I know there's some of the great work you do with Glenda. If people do want to reach out to you, obviously we'll put all your contact details at the end. We'll also put that link in there for the cheat sheet that you were talking about, so people can jump on that. Otherwise, find Mark on LinkedIn. That's obviously his main home, but he's also on Facebook and I'm sure on Instagram as well. So thanks ever so much for your time this morning, Mark. Really enjoyed that, and we will definitely catch up soon, I'm sure.